Hi gang, welcome to the Cold Case Chronicles. For new listeners, I'm Maddy, welcome. For those new podcast, welcome back. This will be the 100th episode of the podcast, so in honour of this immense occasion, we have recorded a TV episode available on our podcast website. Today, we'll be looking into the disappearance of A. Anderson, L. Hendy and M. Tyler. The three were seen waiting at a bus stop near Postbridge, Dartmoor, to catch a bus in the Princetown direction, though they never returned. Only 3 pairs of shoes were ever found lined up neatly in a row. Many theories are sparked in attempts to solve this mystery, but nothing conclusive has ever resulted. Today, we hope to solve that. As many of our listeners will know, we first post this on our podcast Twitter page and ask you to send in your theories. And often, they're inconclusive. However, we stumbled across a goldmine. A man contacted us under the name John Bales. He claims he was there the day that it disappeared, at that very same bus stop. Today, we'll be speaking to him and learning his tale. Hopefully, we can find some answers. But for now, what do you think? John, hi, how are you?
Hi Maddy, I'm okay, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So, should we get started? Tell me, what happened that day?
Well, first I think it's important to state my theory. It comes from the legend, BATHIS.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this one. Could you just fill us in?
Absolutely. They say BATHIS lurks in the shadows of a well-lit room, unseen, unnoticed, exactly how intense. I didn't know then, but something about that night should have warned me. BATHIS isn't a creature you see. It's something you feel, creeping up behind you, filling your lungs until you can't breathe. They say that BATHIS lives in the hills of Dartmoor, luring the lost to their deaths, consuming them whole. No bones, no trace, just their shoes left behind like some twisted message, a warning to the next traveller who dares wander too close.
Wow, that's a really interesting one. It must have been so scary.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about fear when I stood there, waiting at the bus stop that day. I guess I should have been, but at the time it all seemed like another slow day on Dartmoor.
It really does seem slow around this time of year.
It sure does. You know, there were others there too. Amelia, rocking a buggy with her child in it, though I never saw or heard of any baby. Then there was Alice. She was waiting too, but I never found out where she was heading. And then there was Luca. At the time, he just seemed like a kid, tossed out of a speeding car like garbage, left on the road. Luca didn't say much, but his eyes told a story. A story of someone who'd been abandoned before, someone who knew the feeling of being left behind.
That's such an interesting take in Luca. You seem to pay a lot of attention.
Which is the only thing people like me can do, observe. It's in my job title.
John is a wildlife observational officer for the National Trust.
Then came Miles. He just seemed like a man in a suit, sweating like just ran a marathon, lugging a heavy-looking rucksack. He dropped it with a thud, and when it fell open, a kitchen knife slid out from underneath the cloth.
Really?
He was a chef, he said. He had a London interview. The knife terrified a lot of us, immediately spiking my suspicions around him.
So, you suspected Mars from the beginning?
Yeah.
Right.
And, Amelia kept oddly quiet, as if nothing was wrong. Acted afraid at first, but not for long enough. She pulled tissues out of her bag for Alice, who suddenly had a nosebleed. A small thing, but it just felt wrong. Everything felt wrong, but none of us said anything out loud. She had everything. A blanket for Luca when he got cold, a mat for me when I realised I'd left mine at the inn. It's funny, I even went back, but never found it. She was calm. Too calm considering how the rest of us felt, but no one said anything. Not yet.
So, you're suspicious of her now too?
A bit, I suppose. Maybe I should have been more suspicious. That's when it started. The growl, low and rumbling, like something from deep inside the earth. It didn't come from any animal I knew, and it definitely didn't come from any man either. It seemed almost directionless. I wasn't sure if the road ahead was leading me to safety or into something far worse. But Amelia, she just smiled like she already knew. Something felt so disgustingly wrong. I told Luca and Alice to run. Get out there. Looking back, it was the biggest mistake I made. I should have stayed with them, fought off whatever it was that took them.
You were trying to protect them. You couldn't have known. It becomes clear that John feels immense guilt towards that day. We took a short break after this as I felt he might have needed it. So, you think BATHIS took them?
Well, it's the only thing that makes any sort of sense. We searched, but there was no answer. Miles was frantic, I could see it in his eyes. The same panic that was starting to claw at me, but Amelia, she just stood there, calmly, watching, waiting. That's when it hit me. There was no bus, no car, no one was coming for us. Not in the way we thought.
That must have been so scary.
It was, Maddy. I was terrified. The way Amelia was looking at me, it wasn't the same smile she had earlier. This was different. Her smile was knowing. Too knowing. Her voice soft but cold. "It's too far," she said, almost like a warning. "But it's close enough."
Bloody hell, John.
No. In that moment, I understood the danger wasn't out there waiting to find us. We'd already walked straight into it.
Okay, guys, that is the end of the recorded conversation with John. I know it's a lot to take in. It's unsettling to say the least. To hear someone talk about feeling so haunted, the feeling so relentless that you just can't escape it. It doesn't really give you time to think. It just forces you to run. And now, I'll admit, there's a part of me that feels uneasy about this whole case. And after listening to that, hearing him describe everything in such vivid detail, it's like reliving it all over again. And that just, I can't imagine how he must have felt. Okay, right. So, here's what we know. Luca, Alice and Miles disappeared, gone without a trace, no sign. And Amelia, well, I'm not sure what to make of her. Something about the way that she spoke to them, the way she said those things, the way she acted. She didn't seem scared at all, and while the rest of them seemed petrified. No logical human being acts like that. It's like she knew what was coming. Now, I know we're all dying for answers here. I mean, where did Luca, Alice and Miles go? There was no trace of them found. No footprints, nothing. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to keep digging into this one, and I'm going to really encourage that you guys submit what you think could have happened. If anybody has any information on this case that could help us solve it, our PO box is open. I'll link that below. But until we have those answers, all we can do is wait and listen, because I've got a feeling that the darkness isn't done with us yet. Okay, thanks for listening. Catch us in the next episode. And remember, when something feels wrong, keep your eyes open and your wits sharp, because sometimes the things we don't see are the most dangerous.